Hey, investor family, welcome back to Global Market Spotlight, the show where we go beyond the headlines and deep into the neighborhoods that actually shape real estate markets. I'm your host, Hugo, with SBGroup, and this is a very special episode. Why is that? It's because there's a neighborhood that many investors don't dismiss or don't pay too much attention to. And today is joining me a local area expert that not only does she know the neighborhood like the back of her hand, but she's bringing us actual data, numbers, and points of interest that you're going to enjoy. So, welcome to the show, Carla. Thank you for coming on board. There you go. Welcome, Carla.
Hugo, thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this because this series is personal to me. And we are starting exactly where it all began for me, right here in Pine Hills, Florida.
Pine Hills, Orlando, huh? Before
Yes,
we start looking at single numbers, let's talk a little bit of strategy, and that way the audience can not only understand but learn, but actually put yourself and give us a little bit of history on Pine Hills.
of course. So, Pine Hills is the first neighborhood in Florida that helped raise me. And that's the name of my series, Neighborhoods That Raised Me. My family moved to Orlando when I was 10 years old. We lived in an apartment complex called Crestview right off of Silver Star Road. And what I remember most wasn't just the streets and the building, but it was the smell. Down the road was the Frito-Lay factory, and you could literally smell the chips being made in the air. At the same time, there was trucks passing by us full of oranges that were headed to the west to become orange juice. So the whole neighborhood smelled like chips and citrus. That was
Wow.
Orlando back then when I moved here. It was a farming town. It was orange groves everywhere, and Pine Hills was the landing pad for working families at that time. It was a strong starting point from back then, especially for me when I first got here.
And that world has changed dramatically since then. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure, sure. Orlando grew and the farms disappeared. Development moved in. The Frito Lay factory is actually still there, and unfortunately, I know that's a fun fact, but they just decided to close down. But the orange groves are long gone, and in their place, you'll see more homes, more families, and a lot more pressure on affordability. And that pressure is precisely why Pine Hills is still matters today, not as a nostalgic place, but as an investment place.
Oh, that's interesting. And so now as we get into the numbers and we get to learn about the neighborhood, can do you have some like I see on the map? Is that the location? Or what's the zip code? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I sure can. Pine Hill sits between northwest of downtown Orlando. You've got easy access to I-4. Colonial Drive runs right through it, and you're about 15 minutes from the urban core of Orlando. Now, within Pine Hills, there are two distinct zip codes that we going to talk about today, and they have two different type of investment stories. One of them is 32808, which is the southern core with older homes built in the 1950s and 60s with blue collar working neighborhoods and strong rental demand. And then you have zip code 32818, the northern corridor, which is more of a suburban feel, newer constructions from like the 80s and 90s. Younger families are moving in, same general area, just completely different strategies. And we'll break both those down in detail.
That's very interesting because on the slide it's mentioning about a thousand plus new residents a week. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, what I've learned a while ago, there's a lot of people moving to Florida, period. So, there's an influx of people coming here. And one of the things that we also have to realize is a lot of them are coming looking for something that's affordable. So, for this, it means that demand has not stopped. So, every week, over 1,000 people are making Orlando their home. A significant portion of those people are essential workers, healthcare, logistics, you have hospitality, the service sector, we're a tourist area. So all those businesses actually need someone to work. And they also need housing that is close to where they work. and something that they can afford. So Pine Hills delivers that. Entry prices remain well below Orange County's median, which places Pine Hills squarely in the path of demand for people priced out of the neighboring zip codes, where it's a little more expensive. So this isn't a speculative bet on a future neighborhood. This is serving an existing, growing, urgent need.
So it is, if I'm understanding correctly, the neighboring neighborhoods, the prices are going up so high that people are moving into Pine Hills. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, because there's a lot of growth here in Central Florida area, but Pine Hill still remains that area where the pricing is still affordable. It's still like at the median price. So they choose to do it because they have to. And then they choose to stay because they find community there as well. So they have access to their jobs, which is everything. And then healthcare workers at the Florida hospital, a logistics employee at one of the distribution centers near the 408, because Pine Hills has 408 going right through it as well. They need to get to work in 20 minutes or less. So Pine Hills put them in that range. And once families are established there, kids in school, neighborhoods, they know, they don't move, they don't go. So the stability is gold for a buy and hold landlord.
So from the sound of it, there's little hidden jewels within that neighborhood. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's very real. The retention is very real too. So when you invest in workforce housing and you operate with respect, maintain the property, respond to issues, treat your tenants like they're working people want to be treated. They want to treat fair. You build loyalty. So a lot of people move into this area and they don't move. The turnover risk that scares a lot of investors away from this market is largely self-created by landlords who don't take care of their properties. The market itself has stable, consistent demand.
And that's a critical point because the infrastructure is already established and it isn't a neighborhood that's betting to be developed. It's already developed. And given that it's so close to Orlando, sounds like you're onto something. Is that a different risk profile altogether if people invest in Pine Hills?
Well, it's you're not buying a promise. The roads are there, the schools are there, the utilities are there, the community is all embedded. And so, like I said, I first moved there when I was 10. That was when the working families were coming in, it was still farming. So now it has grown. So that infrastructure is what differentiates Pine Hills from a speculative emerging market, different risk, different return type, and the very real return for the investor who understands what they're buying.
Now let's get a little bit into the numbers because I'm sure that people watching want to get into the numbers, especially the investors. Yes. And it sounds like the numbers don't look too bad. Can you tell us a little bit about the February 2026 data?
Sure. We're going to go by tile to tile because each one tells a part of the story. The median sold price in this area is around 290,000, and that's up 12% month to month over January of this year. So the sold to list price ratio is about 95%, meaning buyers are negotiating a small discount, but sellers are holding firm. Months of inventory are at about 3.85. I'm trying to remember the numbers. And that's the seller's market. So anything under 6 months favors sellers. Active median rent on new listings come to market right now in March, because we're in March right now. We're already in March. So right now it's about $17.95 per month. So closed rental median, meaning actual leases that have been signed and closed, is about $18.75 per month, which is not bad. And the estimated gross yields about $275,000 to $290,000 buy price, which is approximately 7 to 8%.
So let me get this right. The average rent is about $17.95, say $1,800. The average price point is $275 to $290.
Right,
and
exactly.
You get about a 7 to 8% return. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So you buy a house that's usually in this area, it's going to be like between $275 to $290. You can expect to collect rent between like $1,700 and $1,800.
And so those are key points, because if you're saying that people don't really move and they tend to stay, And if people are happy living there, because one, it's affordable, it's
Hmm.
very close to downtown,
Right.
and it seems like the rents and even the prices month over month lately, there's little price increases, nearly 13% in a single month. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, yeah. It should be, it causes the investors to be they could either be cautious about that or get excited. I say they should be both, because the excitement is that it confirms there's real demand in this market. Buyers are competing with it's a well priced product. So, in this area, everything is well priced. The caution is that you need to run in your numbers at today's prices, not yesterday. So if you're acquiring something at $290,000, you need to make sure that the cash flow math still works at that number. And for the right property, it absolutely does, given the rental data that we're seeing.
Can you walk me through the math? So somebody that's never ran these numbers before?
Sure, sure. So let's say you buy something at about, let's just say 300,000 or 290. Your mortgage rate is going to be, what you're paying for, because if you're paying cash is different, but if you have this finance, you want to make sure you can collect the rent that's going to cover that. So with the amount of rent that you're collecting, you actually can cover your mortgage, your maintenance, your taxes, and all those expenses that come along with that, and you can still make a profit even at the price rate of 1875. Versus if you were to buy something maybe at $500,000, you're not going to have such a low base and make a profit of that, because your base mortgage is going to be higher.
Well, so far it doesn't sound bad, because if there's stability, there's rent increases and price increases, and there's always a demand. 15 minutes away. How far is it from the airport?
Airport, it depends. If you drive like me, you can get there
Five
in
minutes?
15 minutes. Right.
Okay. If you drive
But,
like me, an hour?
well, from Pine Hills, you hop on the 408, which is right there. That'll take you to 436, which will take you right to, let's say it's a good 30 minutes, 35 minutes,
Got it.
depending on traffic, because,
So
traffic.
that's really close.
Yes.
And from the looks of it, the population in the area is not that much, but that neighborhood keeps stability. And that's something impressive, because not all neighborhoods in Orlando, and I've been looking at some neighborhoods, and they're not having month over month price increases or rent increases. This is very interesting, Carla.
Thank you.
What's
Thank you. Thank you.
projected? How is the area projected to grow by 2029?
By 2012, the rental demand is outpacing the rental supply right now, especially in these zip codes. Landlords are listing, renting, renters are actually, competing. So things are not, staying open for long, and the leases are closing above listed price. And that's a very healthy signal for a buy and hold investor. It means you're not going to struggle to find a tenant. And the rents that
Wow.
you project in your underwriting are conservative. So the actual market is paying more.
So while we're on that subject, which is very interesting, would you recommend investors to look into the two areas of Pine Hills, one over the other, or both of them are pretty attractive?
Yeah, I would recommend both, because they have different features and what you're actually looking for. Like if you buy at a 280 and your tenant pays 1875, your annual gross rental is going to be 22,500. Divide that by your purchase price and you're right at 8%. And that's in the
Hmm.
lower end. That's 32808. You buy a little higher in 3218, you're servicing a different demographic, so you're going to make just a little bit more.
And and I was going to ask you, the neighborhood is really, it's speaking to me that we should be looking into that area. Now, given that it's stable, given that it's increasing in price and rent, what do you recommend for the investor to be on the lookout? Because it seems like 32818, if I'm not mistaken, is a newer area or northern
Yes.
corridor, and
Yes.
then 32808 is the older area. Is there much
Exactly.
of a difference between both of them?
Not too much, but if you're in 328, which we call a northern corridor, and the appreciation and stabilities play there, the first thing that jumps off the slide is a number I don't see very often in today's market, which is 102.1 sold to list price ratio. So that means competitive demand is meeting supply. 32818 attracts a different buyer and a tenant profile than 32808. You're dealing with what we call urban edge families, married homeowners with children, dual income household, stable employment. These people have the financial capacity to compete for homes they want, and they're doing exactly that. So when it's well priced, when a well priced property hits in 32818, it gets multiple offers and it closes faster. Versus if you're at 32808, it's just a little bit more older. The houses are older, so your pricing is going to be a little bit different.
That's very interesting because parts of Orange County and Orlando, prices are going down in rents and in actual listing prices. And it says here, according to this data, that some people are even offering above asking price. Is that correct?
Yeah, because quality is of demand. The families moving to 328 are choosing deliberately. They want better school zones. They want newer housing stock. They want more suburban character. So they're willing to pay. They're not buying things because it's cheap. They're buying it for the value. And so it's also checking off, their boxes that they have. And so they're willing to pay a little bit more in the 32818 area code.
And that's very interesting because we were speaking right before getting on the show, and I was telling you, why are people paying above the asking rent or the above asking in price? It seems like there's a real demand. Or is it that Orlando's out price itself and people are going into the area? Can you tell us a little bit about it? Because this is a key point for investors. They
Mhm.
want stability, right? As an
Right.
investor, you don't want a property that's empty. And so that's why this neighborhood, it's starting to make more sense.
Right, right. The reason why it's that way because this area, like I said, is it's like a secret gem. It's been, it's like something on the side. Not too many know about it because of when you hear the name Pine Hills, it has a different connotation with it. But for an investor standpoint, you can actually make a huge profit because you're going to have long term renters. People get actually move into this neighborhood and they don't leave. They stay. They want to build their families here, and so renters are competing for better conditions with more amenities and more desirable location because remember it's so centrally located for you to be able to get to where you want to work. But both results in above asking leasing signings as well because people are looking for something that's affordable, but in this area it's not overpriced. It's something that still falls within that affordable range.
And it's we have a question from the audience, and they're asking, how does employment, what's the what's the growth of employment in the area, average wages? Why is there such a big demand in that neighborhood?
That's a really good question. Because or Orlando itself, Orange County itself, Central Florida, we also have the tourism over there on International Drive. But we have things like Martin Marietta, which is Lockheed Martin now. We also have Amazon is building their warehouses here. It's a lot of big businesses are coming here in Central Florida. A lot of tech jobs are coming here. All of these different big high-end jobs, they also need support. There's a lot of restaurants here. And so there's actually a lot of places that people who can at least afford this neighborhood will be able to work. The structure itself is set up for the supporting the big companies that are actually coming into the Orlando area.
I see. And you have a great point because Pine Hills, it's still about another 20, 30 minutes to Disneyland, to Universal.
Right,
So
exactly.
it's in a great location. And then the
Mhm.
entry point to get in, did you say the average price for people to buy a house in the area is about 250 to 300,000, somewhere around there?
Yeah, yeah, about 275 to I would say upwards of 275 to about 300,000.
Which that sounds a lot better than 350 to 400,000, which the rest of Orlando
Exactly.
and higher.
Exactly. Exactly. So this area right here is still what we call affordable, and that is extremely important in this day and age, which everything wants to go up. So as an investor, you'll be trading a raw yield for stability and equity of growth. So in 32808, your gross yield potential is 7 to 8%, just like it is in 32818. So 32808, you're spending a little bit less, but you're still getting the same yield.
That's good. So it's one area is not better than the other. It's about what strategy fits better for that investor. Is that correct?
Exactly. Exactly. It's about what strategy is fitting for you. Um, Strategy one in zip code 32808 Pine Hills Core, your entry price is like 250 to 300, and rental income is about 17 to 1900. So your gross yield potential is still, like I said, 7 to 8%. Median sold price in February was 290. So that's really good. Right now, there is an active distress pipeline of about 10 properties. So that means you really have a lot of investment opportunities over distressed properties, which means you could still
I
buy
see.
low.
So who should be targeting this strategy? Who should be targeting this neighborhood?
Well, investors who want immediate cash flow, you want to check every month. Investors who are comfortable with older property stock, like places that were built from the 1950s to the 70s,
Mm,
and understand what that means for maintenance. So, the older it is, you're going to have a little bit more maintenance. Investors who want entry level pricing under 300,000, which is increasingly rare in Orange County right now, and investors who either have strong local property management in place or are willing to be active hands-on landlords. If you fit that profile, 32808 will be your zip code.
what would be strategy number two?
Well, for zip code 32818, we call that the northern corridor. So your entry price is going to be a little bit more. You're at 300,000 to 400,000. Your rental is going to be between 2,000 to 2,400. And this market is hot right now. Like I said, it's sold at 102% of the
That's
list price. So that
amazing.
means people are paying a little bit more over here because they want to get in here. So demand is very real and very active. Home values are holding at about 5% year over year. And the county is, even though the county is negative at 3.9%. So your tenant profile is urban edge families. It's younger people that are moving over here, and you have lower turnover, you have stable income, and they take care of the property as well. Best for long-term
Wow.
appreciation investors. The stability and growth income out to maybe 2029 and beyond. So you have a 5 to 10 year hold for value of growth.
Wow. And so it sounds like a little diamond in the rough because
Yes, it is.
the numbers are going, and it's amazing that people are overbidding in today's market because the
Yes,
rest of Orlando is still falling, but this neighborhood seems like it keeps growing and growing and growing.
yes.
Who should choose the 32818?
Those who are investors, they're going to choose 32818. You want the appreciation of potential alongside solid rental income. Investors who prefer newer builds, these are built from the 80s to the 2000s. So these are newer. So that means your maintenance is going to be a little bit lower. You have lower upfront repair needs. So those investors who want to deal and you spend a little bit more, but you're spending a lot less and getting things ready. So investors who can afford $350,000 or more as their entry point, and they want a lower risk operation with less day-to-day management, this is their area, 32818.
I see.
And
And who is this area not good for?
that's a good question. So if you're chasing luxury appreciation and expecting Pine Hills to behave like Windermere and Lake Nona, this is neither one of these zip codes are for you.
This is more for the investor or up and growing families, correct?
Exactly. It's really good for someone who's ready to get started. If you can afford the higher neighborhoods, then I would say go ahead and try those out. But if you're just getting started and you don't have a whole lot that you have to start out with, this would be a great area to start out with.
And now that I'm thinking, there's a lot of families that are moving into the area. This would
Hmm.
be a great starting point, and then they keep the property because they're already in the neighborhood and they know the neighborhood, and then they could keep it for long term.
Yes,
Is that
exactly.
is that what you're advising your client when you're working with them?
Right. So actually, what we do is we sit down and figure out what it is that they're looking for. So if you want to spend a little bit more and have you spending more on the purchase price but less on fix up price, then we'll choose that 32818 area. code. But if you're looking to, you want to spend a little bit less and you're okay with maybe with the maintenance costs and getting everything ready, so you can go to 32808. So we figure out where are you willing to start from. We have to sit down and we'll walk through those numbers with you.
How far apart do you think those two areas are from one another? A mile,
Not
two
very far.
miles?
Maybe 5 miles.
Oh, wow.
32808 covers a huge part of the Orlando area, and it's closer to downtown. And then 32818 is right next to it, and that's going more towards the west, more away from downtown,
So
but
you would
maybe
say that,
closer towards Disney. So once you start going west, like west, and going north, you start hitting the Disney area.
so for the viewers watching, if I'm understanding correctly, 32818, that would be closer to Universal, to
Yes,
Disney,
yes,
and then 32808 would be closer to downtown. Is
correct,
that correct?
correct. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Now, what about the long-term investor? What's the vision? What have you seen there in those areas?
For the long-term investor, um, it depends. Long-term investor, if you want to buy and hold and you want to make sure that you're going to get profit monthly for over a long time, I say both of them should work for you. Because like I said earlier, the families are moving in and they're not really moving out. You have people who are moving into Orlando, jobs are coming here, so they're following those jobs. So for long term, you'll be able to know that if your renters move out because they maybe got a job elsewhere, you'll still be able to have other renters move in because the demand here in these areas are very high.
Wow. And for those investors that are watching,
Mm-hmm.
this is a little hidden gem. Why? Because not many people talk about these areas and they oversee it. And why is this important? Because when other people are not watching that area, as far as investors, homeowners are silently taking over. Is there a lot of investors in the area already, or is it mostly homeowners?
It's a mixture. As people grow, parents grow, and leave their property to their children. The children want to leave, so they end up selling the property. So you have a mixture of investors here, but you also have people who are still, generations living in the neighborhood. So it's a mixture.
That's that's very good to know. And in your honest opinion, what do you think of Pine Hill? Should the investor start learning and getting to know the area?
Well, what the investor can do is come and get to know me. This is what started it for me. For when I first moved to Florida, this is where I first grew up, and so they can come get to know. Yes, get to know the area. You'll find that it's a very lucrative area. It's a area where you still have a lot of businesses. There's a lot of life here, but come get to know. If you want to know the details, I can help you out and show you around.
That's great to know. And it sounds like it's a little neighborhood, but in reality, it's a big neighborhood because the stats say that there's 50,000 people, but every time I drive over there, it looks like there's 300,000 people. It's just there's a lot of moving parts in that area. But I was impressed by the actual amount of people that are overbidding in the area in today's market. That's not happening in too many other places.
Yeah, that's because of the median price market for this area. It falls for an investor. You want to make sure that you can at least get a profit for every what we quote unquote door that you own. So this is the area to start that with for you, to start that trend, to start you on that
Well,
road to making a profit, and you can actually build a good portfolio in this neighborhood as well.
yes, and I completely agree with you. There's quite a few investors that are doing
Mhm.
that right now, and they keep
Exactly.
increasing their portfolio. Well, Carla, thank you very much. And just to recap, I hope the audience grabbed and learned a little bit about the area. Plus, they captured some informational and some great data. Now, do you have anything to wrap up the show?
Well, I just want to say thank you for giving Pine Hills the platform it deserves. Because, like I said, if a lot of people, when they hear the name, they think of the negative connotation. But this neighborhood raised me, and I raised my kids here as well, and it raised a lot of Central Florida residents here. And I hope this conversation gives the investor a different objective on the area versus the hype that they may hear about it, because it's actually very lucrative and it can help you build some wealth.
That's very interesting, and I know what you're talking about, but it's a hidden giant, and
It's a
there's a
hidden gem. Yes, it is.
you guys out there take a look at it. There's not many entry points in the Orlando area that are under 300,000, so it's something to consider,
Exactly.
especially for the amount of people that are moving into the area. Thank you for
Yes.
being on the show, Carla. Thank you guys as an audience. We hope to see you again soon, and next week we'll bring you some more informational data. In the meantime, thank you, Carla. You have a great day.
Thank you,
Thanks for
Hugo.
joining
I
us.
really appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. On to the next one.
Yep. Until next time.